I would begin by saying yes and to what Reverend Logan just said. She mentioned three things that I agree wholeheartedly with. She spoke about the fact that racism is systemic and it's grounded in imbalances of power. Yes. She spoke about the fact that when we think about racism, we have to acknowledge and also address the intersectionalities. Yes. And that we have to name it. I think when it comes to any evil, and racism is an evil, we have to be explicit in naming that evil. What I would put as an and is that while I fully acknowledge and recognize that racism is systemic, it's institutionalized forms of oppression grounded in power, I also think that we have to think about racism as discrete acts committed by individuals, because in some way failing to do so lets individuals off the hook. Racism is the looting of Black bodies upon which this country was founded. Racism is the violence that has allowed this country to flourish economically at the expense of our people's bodies through slavery, sharecropping, chain gangs, prison labors, and today, workers who are living below a living wage. Racism is a systemic devaluing of Black lives that has allowed white people to comfortably live their lives, while for years, our lives have been snuffed out. Racism is the inhumanity that has allowed white people to watch what has been happening without speaking up or taking action. It's also the neoliberal processes that are enabling the rupture and displacement of our Black communities. So there are many systemic forms of racism, but there are also many individual acts in which racism manifests itself. And I think you're going to ask us to talk later about personal experiences, but I'm going to call some of them out right here. Those individual acts look like at the age of 6, being a first grader, playing during recess, and one of my classmates calling me the N-word. Those, learning at the age of 6 what this means. That racism is entering my first job in corporate America, and the brand manager I work with snapping his fingers and calling me the coffee girl in meetings. Racism is walking on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in New York City 2 weeks after the election of the current regime in the White House and having an elderly woman spit at me and call me the N-word because I happened to step too close to her. So absolutely, racism is systemic forms of institutionalized oppression grounded in the imbalances of power, but it is individualized acts as well.
Thank you, Autumn. So much was said there, even as you gave the examples and how they show up all the way from youth into the workplace. So thanks for sharing.